Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership at TEPSA. And each episode, I look to bring you another guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another, and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to tell some of yours. I'm thrilled for this episode to bring my friend and former colleague, Stephanie Sheffield, on with me. It's so weird calling her Sheffield still because I knew her as Stephanie Vaz, but Stephanie, introduce yourself. Tell everybody a little about who you are.
Yes, my name is Stephanie Sheffield. I am a fourth grade math and science teacher. I graduated from A&M in 2018, and so I'm still pretty early in my career, but yeah.
So,
That's
Stephanie,
that.
when we look at the path that people take, and every time I interview an educator, I always love to ask, some of us, we grew up knowing that we were going to be a teacher, and others of us, we were like, no, it was not in my path, but then I ended up there and I loved it. So how did you know, or when did you know you were going to be a teacher?
I think the funny thing is I did not start out saying I was going to be a teacher. I remember as a kid, I was always interested in things in like the sciences. So I wanted to be like a meteorologist, archaeologist, engineer. And then I got to college and I realized that I didn't enjoy those classes as much as I thought I did. And so I kind of got to towards the end of my sophomore year and I realized I need to make a change. So I thought, okay, I've been tutoring since high school. I really love that. So why not give education a try? And I had friends and like family tell me like they could totally picture me as a teacher. And then I thought, oh, you guys are just saying that. But then I actually did it and I love it. And my nephew was probably a big part of that process too. Just he was getting entered into the SPED process. And I just loved seeing how that worked and how it really was a good positive thing for him. And so I wanted to be a part of that somehow.
So, you are now working in fourth grade. And so did you always have that interest more in elementary than in secondary? Or were you just kind of like, that just worked for me and I did it? Like, what was what were you more interested in?
I think the crazy thing is that my first field experiences were always like fourth grade math.
Mhm.
And it's crazy to have ended up there. But I remember like the summer after I switched majors, my church was doing this trip to Kansas City, and we got to go to the area and kind of learn about like different social issues going on. But a big part of the trip was education. So we got to go to a summer school and tutor kids in math and science, and I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I think that was the moment for me where I was like, okay, I could totally picture myself in this grade level. So I just stuck with it as much as possible.
Well, I also, of course, love that you graduated from my alma mater, A&M, go Aggies. And so, but you are one of those unique college students that you graduated in December instead of in the traditional May. And so when you find out that your graduation's coming up and it's December, did you have like additional anxiety knowing it was going to be the middle of the school year?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think just knowing that it was mid-school year and I wanted to be in one specific place, I knew I wanted to come back to the like Brazos, Grimes County area. My husband actually works in Navasota, so it just worked out perfectly in that sense. But yeah, I think there's a lot of anxiety around that, just not knowing where I wanted to be, but
Mhm.
where I was supposed to be. Those probably might have not been the two same things.
And so, you ended up, of course, getting a job at Webb Elementary at my school, and you came in and you did some observations and things in December to prepare yourself for coming in January. But coming in mid-year is tough. It's like it doesn't matter what classroom you're walking into, what subject, what grade level, any of that kind of stuff. It's tough because they've already had 6 months of a certain way of things being done. And so, what did you specifically for yourself do to kind of prepare yourself mentally into walking in mid-year?
I think I kind of just prepared myself that I might not be accepted right away. I think there's a lot of like teacher movies out there that are kind of cringy because they'll kind of show this like young teacher goes into the school and like the kids are like super like defiant at first and then very accepting. and you might not always have that to look forward to. So I just had to prepare myself, like, okay, this is like, these are real children with like real life things going on. And so I think I had to prepare myself that my ideal like Pinterest perfect lesson might not happen right off the bat, and just kind of go with it and just try to bring a sense of calm to that room, if anything.
So what was probably the biggest lesson you learned your first semester teaching?
Oh man, I guess first semester, probably that I think I'm a lot braver than I thought. And I think the kids like really inspired me in that way, because there's some students who are like kind of shy to start out with, and I got to see them like really come out of their shells that semester. And like that really inspired me, because there's some days where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I ruining their lives?
Right.
Am I teaching them the right things? And they kind of taught me to give myself some grace, because if I heard them talking about themselves that way and saying, oh, I can't learn this, I'm dumb, like I'm not, like I can't do this, like I would not have any of that, so why would I say that about myself? So yeah, definitely that like compassion for my kids kind of like made me want to be more brave for them.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and then this year, it's your first full year teaching. You get to start the year from day one, and then you don't get a full year again. So that you were the first name that came to mind whenever all this Corona happened, because I thought Stephanie's not going to get a whole year again of teaching. And so, walk me back to the beginning of the year. You go through 6 months of being a first year teacher, and then a new school year starts, new group of kids. Did you feel like your feet were any better under you, or was it still like, nope, everything is still fresh because this is my first time doing this part?
I think I was doing a lot better having like a whole summer to mentally prepare, because I knew right off the bat, okay, I'm not going to do things this way. I'm going to start off having these procedures and having these conversations with my students. And so I think the beginning was great. Like I have a great group this year, and that really has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Very supportive parents. For sure this year. And so I think that made the beginning so wonderful, but it's also made it really like sad that like I don't get that full year with this group.
And so,
But yeah.
well, and now you're learning how to be an online teacher and trying to make those kind of things work. And so, what have you learned about yourself through this process of kind of shifting from in person to online?
Definitely that I have to be flexible. I can't be too hard on myself and stuff, because this is like uncharted territory for even the most experienced teachers. And so I would love to kind of like use this as a chance to like work on like being more collaborative and working with my colleagues and stuff. But then also for my kids, it's like I'm going to take the little opportunities I have to kind of say, hey, I'm still remembering you. Still like I still care about like what you do for fun, and like just like the little moments that you easily get in class. Like I don't think I'm going to take those for granted anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's huge, and that's I love that even though you're a newer teacher, that's still something in your mindset. That's such a great thing to keep in there. And so, shifting gears a little bit in our conversation, you know, when we go through our lives, we have all these successes and hardships and celebrations and trials and all these different things. When you reflect on your life up until this point, what is something that you look back on and go, that was really instrumental in creating the woman you see today?
I guess definitely just thinking back to my earlier life, I did move around a lot.
Mhm.
By the time I graduated high school, I had lived in like 6 states.
Wow.
I had been to 12 different schools, like public, private, charter, magnet, like everything. And
Wow.
so I think career wise, it's definitely shaped me in terms of like I identify with the students who like have things shaken up every once in a while. Maybe not completely, because it was a little different. My dad was military, and then But then too, like personally, I think it's kind of made me realize, okay, like if the worst thing that happens is I have to like kind of change my plans this school year, it's not the worst thing in the world, because it's happened plenty of times, so it's okay.
I'd love to ask about that a little bit. I moved around a little bit as a kid too. My dad was in the oil field, not quite near to the extent of what you did. But, looking back on those years, do you feel like, I mean, I could see that really playing into, for me personally, if I had moved that much, I could see me really struggling with really being able to want to connect with people really deeply right away because I'm like, well, I may just be somewhere else new next year. So why put in the effort? Do you ever find yourself sometimes having to fight that battle of it's okay to really dive in and build relationships, whether it's with kids or adults, because of that experience in your past?
Oh yeah. And I think for me with like my students, it's a lot easier just
Mhm.
because I only have them for a school year.
True.
So it is a temporary situation, but it makes me want to like jump in a lot quicker and get to
Mhm.
know them. But then I think with like adults and colleagues, like friends from church and stuff, it has been a little bit harder because I don't like to think about the future too far in advance. I like to plan and I like to be prepared, but when it comes to building relationships, it's been difficult. So I do have to give myself a little extra push when it comes to like stopping by like a friend's classroom and saying hello and like asking how their day went, because it means a lot to me when other people do it. So
Yeah.
I definitely have to like consciously make the effort, probably more so than others.
See, because I could definitely see that being a struggle, just because of, you're so used to don't connect too deeply. You're going to be moving again recently, and so I could see that playing into, because I'm just thinking about myself and be like, I would totally be like that, and I would have to, because I already have to work really hard for small talk and stuff, and so I could see myself having to work even harder, going invest right now, because that doesn't mean I'm moving in 6 months. I need to put in the effort right now, and so Stephanie, you also are fairly newlywed. And so, a new school, new job, new husband. And so, what has been your favorite part of being married?
Probably just like when I get to come home after a long day, like just having someone there, like just like the small things have been my favorite part. And I guess kind of what you mentioned earlier, just like moving around and having that relationship building be hard. Like this is going to be the longest like
Yeah.
relationship. I mean, other than my immediate family. So it's just crazy just getting to know someone that deeply, like, and then just knowing the little things about them and stuff. So yeah, I guess someone to like share all this with. Teaching's rough and it's amazing all at the same time.
Yep.
But I have a husband who's like amazing at like helping me process those emotions. So that's been really cool.
I love that. Well, Stephanie, when you look at people who have really played a big role into your own growth and who you are, who is someone that really it was instrumental in creating the Stephanie Sheffield we see today?
Oh man, that's kind of hard.
Outside of family, that way you don't offend any family.
Oh gosh, family is really easy because I think they're the ones who've been the most consistent. Like
Yeah.
all my immediate, like brother, mom. But I guess outside of that, I mean, my husband and I, we've been together since 2016,
Oh, yeah.
and in my life, like that's a long
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
To know someone that long. Well, we've known each other since 2015 because we were friends before. So that's a huge relationship in my life. I think in high school I had like really good teachers along the way who were kind of like nudge because I was at the same high school for 3 years and they really like nudged me to like get involved with stuff.
Mhm.
They told me like don't just come here and like go to class and go home, like get to know people. And so I think like those teachers really helped me get out of my shell.
Yeah.
I think one of them was Miss Pollinack. Like she got married, so that's not her name anymore. But she was an English teacher. Um, like Mr. Drano Watts, he was my history teacher. He was hilarious, but yeah, like he like introduced me to like a lot of my friends because I was too afraid to come up to them. So
I
yeah,
love
and
that.
that kind of relayed to me like deciding to go into teaching later.
Yeah,
And then yeah, I just had a lot of like really good friendships throughout the way. So like yeah, moving was hard, but I think I had a very positive experience and like
right.
positive friendships and
Good.
teachers. And then yeah, like
Awesome.
things worked out really well with Grant.
There you go. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, every way that I like to end these conversations is with the same kind of question, in that, there are things that each one of us hold really dear to our hearts, they're really firm held beliefs. And so for anybody listening today, if there was one thing that you wish more people knew or understood, what would your one thing be?
Probably that I think kindness is very important. It probably sounds like like a simple answer, but I think some people might have to work at it harder than others. But like in the end, like it might have been easier to say something rude and mean, but just with like kids, it's gonna like help them grow a lot more. With adults, like you're gonna have better relationships. So just if you can find little ways to be kind, like just do it.
I love that so much. Well, Stephanie, I am so I've loved getting to watch you grow, and I was so excited when you agreed to come on Tell Your Story. So thank you for coming and sharing some of your story.
Yes, thank you too. I'm really happy you asked, so I appreciate it. Thanks.
And thank you everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Stephanie has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.